What is going on with the Department of Education? Are schools losing money? What about the teachers? Will everything be shut down? Well, we're going to get into all that and more in today's video. And as always, we're not here to waste time, so let's just get right into this. School funding. Let's start off with how public schools are funded just to get this out the way. There's primarily two ways that our public schools are funded, one being the state and one being the federal government. The state, like whether it be state taxes, income taxes, corporate taxes, the state itself makes up majority of public schools budget, whereas the federal government, they are the smallest contributor and most of the money that they contribute just goes towards grants and other programs, but more of those programs later. So off the bat, it's not like schools are just going to start shutting down and teachers are going to be losing their jobs left and right just because the Department of Education may be gone. That's just not the case. Will budgets be adjusted? For sure. But just because you hear somebody saying, oh, we need to shut down the Department of Education, that's not equal to them saying, oh, I want to shut down all schools and stop paying teachers. That's not an equal statement. So now that that's cleared up, let's go right to the source and see exactly what the Department of Education does. Okay, it says here, federal and education overview. Education is primarily a state and local responsibility in the United States. It is states and communities, as well as a public and private organization of all kinds, that establish schools and colleges, develop curriculum, and determine requirements for enrollment and graduation. The structure of education finance in America reflects a predominant state and local role. Of an estimated $1.15 trillion spent nationwide on education, all levels for the school year 2012 to 2013. Old examples, so probably even more, to be honest. They need to update their website. The government. Anyways, a substantial majority will come from the state, local, and private sources. It is especially true at the elementary and secondary level, where about 92% of all the funds will come from non-federal sources. That means the federal contribution to elementary and secondary education is about 8%, which includes funds not only from the Department of Education, but also other federal agencies such as the Department of Health, Human Services, Head Start program, and the Department of Agriculture school lunch program. Those are important to note that when it comes to the Department of Health and like kids with special needs and anything that they may need, that's the Department of HHS, it's Health and Human Services. And then when it comes to school lunches, that's the Department of Ag. The Department of Education is abbreviated to ED. Although ED's share of total education funding in the United States is relatively small, ED works hard to get a big bang for its taxpayer provided bucks by targeting its funds where they can be used the most good. This targeting reflects an historical development of the federal role in education as a kind of emergency response system, a means of filling gaps in state and local support for education when critical nation needs arise. We've seen this to not be working. After reading that in the context we have so far about how little, I mean, it's big in the grand scheme of things, but how little actually the Department of Education is actually funding public schools, it is clear that it being shut down, especially with things being moved around, it's not like the end all be all. Like the world's not ending. These kids aren't going to be like without school. No, we're going to be fine. Especially given how little things have changed since the implementation of the Department of Education, because that's one of the newest agencies around, and people fail to forget that. But off the bat, it's like what we have in place right now is not working. And this is a little bit of a tangent, but from this topic to everything that Doge is doing, it's like I thought it was more of a liberal stance of like really holding the government up to a high standards and not wanting to waste time, not wanting to waste money, and really want to call out the BS. And like I feel like this should be a nonpartisan thing where we're calling out the BS that is our failed public school system. Yes, we should be holding our state and local governments more accountable, but at the same time, the over $1 trillion that has been spent on this Department of Education, where has it gone? That's a lot of money that can be used somewhere else. So that's what I'm getting at from this.
I'd like to go ahead and get this wrapped up in a nutshell, because I've been seeing so many people saying Trump is taking away free lunches and IEPs and Pell Grants. I don't know what to do. When it comes to the Department of Education, he has minimized it because they weren't doing nothing with your kids anyway. It's children that graduated high school that think 2 + 2 = purple. And y'all think it's okay for the Department of Education to still operate in the manner that it has been operating in the last 10, 12 years. I mean, help me help you, because I need to understand.
None of it makes sense. Literally, I understand this freeze frame. I'm so sorry to this woman for this freeze frame. What I don't understand is like, on one end, yes, when it comes to our education, when it comes to the curriculum, when it comes to the teachers, that is the responsibility of the local government and the state government. I get it. But knowing that and knowing the horrible track record that the Department of Education has and how much money we're spending versus what we're getting out of it, the math ain't mathing. So it shouldn't even be a problem to kind of readjust and see what's going on there.
Free lunches and things like that, that's being moved to the Department of Agriculture. Okay? which means your children might be getting healthier meals. So that might be a good thing, you know?
Okay, there's been so much talk of school lunches. Oh my gosh, Trump's getting rid of school lunches. The school lunches are going away. The kids are going to starve. Where's our discernment at? Like, truly. When it comes to hearing these things that sound so crazy, where is the discernment to just go in and look for yourself what's going on? Like, do you really think Trump is going to sit here and starve every child at school? No, that's not going to happen. Because let this be a lesson to both those on the left and the right. I need to show you these two headlines right here. The left is saying Trump has yanked $1 billion in food money for schools and food banks. Heartless Trump, $660 million school fund is cut in latest GOP attack. What is the right saying? The first one that you see, Trump administration cancels COVID era food aid programs, a $15.2 million hit to South Carolina growers. This part right here, this COVID era food aid program is very important. So when you look into what was cut specifically, it was a program that was started underneath Joe Biden that they're getting rid of. I'm sorry, I was a kid in school before Joe Biden and I ate free lunch because I was on one of these programs. The kids were getting fed at school before Joe Biden and before this program was even a thing. Does this program being cut hurt some local farmers? Yes, but there is budget that can be moved around, that can be adjusted to say, hey, let's just give our kids healthy food. Off the bat, if we can recognize and just like think back for a second and say, okay, we know schools have money to buy school lunches and like giant catering kitchens to cater lunches for schools and for students. We know the horrible food that's in there. And then we know in our community, there's like restaurants that are farm food to table. There's restaurants that serve local ingredients, local animals. Then maybe we take the budget that's already there for schools and invest that into the local community instead of having to create another new program, spending even more money to get local groceries and foods from the farmers. Does any of this make sense to you? Let me know in the comments below if I'm just tweaking, if I'm just alone right here in my thought process. But my thoughts are, if we're already feeding the kids all this frozen food, all the bags of food, whatever it may be, why don't we just spend that money on a local garden or a local farmer as it is? Why do we need that other program to begin with? Definitely something to be looking into. That's where my brain goes. That's my thought process. I'm thinking in my head, okay, why does this new program need to be a thing to begin with? Why do I need this program to get local food from a farmer when I can just do that off the bat with the money that we already have? It doesn't make sense to me. But again, it's why I love tools like today's sponsor, Ground News. I'm able to go through and compare headlines and see how is the media being twisted. So if you want to get started, be sure to tap the link below. It's going to QR code here on the screen to get involved. And not only is it a great website, but it's also a great mobile app as well. I'm on here every day scrolling through the news, and even my favorite section, Blind Spot, I'll show you here on the computer. What Blind Spot is it shows you everything that the left isn't talking about but the right is, and then everything that the right isn't talking about but the left is. That way we can always see what's going on in the media, that we're not being trapped in an echo chamber. For example, over here on the left, something that the left isn't talking about much at all but the right is. Representative Jasmine Crockett says Democrats need to be okay with punching in races. What? Hold on, what? Express frustration, calls Syracuse to be knocked over the head. We'll get into that in another video. I'm so tired of this woman. Oh, I'm so tired of this woman. Anyways, that's a blind spot. The left isn't talking about the violence at all but the right is, of course, because like, you know, she's calling for violence on their own. But to play it fair, something on the right that the right isn't talking about but the left is. Florida debates lifting some child labor laws to fill jobs vacated by undocumented immigrants. Florida legislature will debate a bill to allow children as young as 14 to work overnight shifts. Child, what? See, we're learning a lot through Blind Spot. I learn a lot every day. So again, if you want to get involved with Ground News, be sure to tap the link below. It's going to QR code on the screen, because again, they're giving you 40% off the Vantage plan, which is the one that I use, that equips you with all the tools that you see to really take the full advantage of Ground News and this amazing platform that exists. That also is ad friendly and supported by all the members, including myself and the thousands of you guys out there that have signed up. So if you want to get the news where I get the news, be sure to get involved.
As far as you getting a Pell Grant, that's been moved to the Department of Treasury. All right. They called the press secretary outside the White House, and she said the Department of Education is still actually kind of helping out with the grants and things for children who want to go to college. So maybe if they teamed up, you might be able to get better grants for your college education. Okay, the last one is the IEPs. That's the Department of Health and Human Services now, which means there might be a more concentrated effort to help your child when they have special needs.
I think this is what's most important, and what I think this video does a great job at highlighting, the 3 ways that programs are being shifted around to other initiatives in our federal government. It is clear it's not a blanket statement, hey, we're shutting everything down and we're being wiped away. No, things are being shuffled around and moved. We're restructuring how things are. Why? Because for enough time, we have seen that there's been so much wasted money within our federal government.
Tricking so many Americans into believing that getting rid of the Department of Education is a good thing has got to be one of the most heinous crimes against Americans. The marginal dollars that you think you're gonna save, which, by the way, you're not. What a joke. They fucking played you so hard. Education, access to education, access to resources that enable education is one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves. To strip that away from people, it's disgusting. I'm smiling, but it's not funny, and I actually genuinely feel bad for those people.
What I feel bad for is you. This person right here. I feel bad that you're just emotionally invested and manipulated into this without taking an ounce every day to look into what exactly is going on. There's so many people like this that are so extremely vocal and have these platforms that don't offer a grain of nuance or an open mind or willingness to just learn or be educated. You're so emotional and you're saying they played you, this is just wrong, this is despicable, education is important. No one's saying kids need to be starved. No one's saying that education doesn't matter. Things are getting shuffled around and things are getting shut down because there's no proven track record of success for this specific department. So why keep spending money in it anyway? It's just funny that like the same people complain about the government the most also advocate for more government control. It doesn't add up. Do not allow yourself to be led by mainstream media, the news, nonprofits, whatever it may be. Go out there and take the information for yourself. That's all I want for you and anyone out there, and to not be this emotional and this fired up over something that that doesn't make sense.
Department of Education does not educate a single child in America. It does not run a single school. It does not pay a single teacher's salary. Some people are concerned about what eliminating the department might mean for students, despite the fact that their track record is terrible and it hasn't improved outcomes. What about protections for, say, groups of kids with special needs, for example? I would note that the Education for All Handicapped Children Act was signed into law in 1975. It provides protections for kids with special needs. It predates the creation of the department. That goes nowhere. Spending for the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, that would move over to HHS. So that goes nowhere. The same would likely happen with Title I spending for low-income districts. It could be managed by HHS. Data collection, send it over to Commerce. Let the Census Bureau handle it. Student loans, send it to the Small Business Administration or the Treasury Department. So there are more appropriate receiving agencies where you could keep intact some of the appropriate functions of the department, but not actually have the infrastructure that is that massive bureaucratic boondoggle that Carter created.
That was it's what we've been talking about in this entire video of literally just understanding and taking the back seat and saying, if they're shutting down the Department of Education, what does it actually mean? Are they shuffling things around? Yes. Are they shutting down some offices? Yes. Are they trying to reduce the amount of spending that we're doing in the specific department? Yes. Do they want these certain segments special needs kids to school lunches, to the grants, to the census stuff to go in separate, more fitting departments? Yeah. I'm not, unless something horrible happens, there is no clear indication to me that shutting down the Department of Education is going to cause this much of a rife and this much of a hassle in America, especially given how much needs to be addressed as it is. The education system on all scales has just failed, and the government stepping in, that's failed too. So we need to come up with something new. There's something else that needs to be done, and I feel like we all can agree to that. I feel like that's a good middle ground that we all can reach, is just saying, hey, left, right, it doesn't matter. We need to be addressing our public school system because something is just not going right. We've gone through for ourselves what exactly the Department of Education does, how public schools are funded, where these programs are being shifted and moved to. So I'm curious, we've gone through an emotional woman, we've gone through the truth. How is mainstream media reacting to this? What is New York Times saying?
President Trump has said he wants to close the federal Department of Education.
Let the states run their own education.
And he says the agency is filled with
radical zealots and Marxists.
But at the same time, he signed sweeping executive orders that would use the federal department to wield tremendous power over local schools that try to prevent schools from recognizing or affirming transgender identities.
Which I think is perfectly fine because, again, this is as a clear pathway to genital mutilation. It's so irate and so stupid. It flusters me and makes me so mad every single time. This idea that schools are actually promoting children to be trans, and that is happening. That is crazy that people are advocating for that to still be a thing. So there's nothing wrong with that. Schools should be teaching not gender ideology, but they should be teaching school things.
That try to force and push schools to adopt what he calls a patriotic view of American history.
Also valid to share love your country, to be more knowledgeable about the rights that we are afforded in this country, be more knowledgeable that, you know, because everybody I think is too jaded. We got people worried about being called he, she, it, they, too worried about pronouns. Whole time across the world, people are dying non-stop. The world is actually cruel and we have it so good here in America. And we should be promoting that and letting people know, hey, be patriotic and love your country because we really stand in our business over here.
Prevent schools from talking about things like critical race theory.
There's no need for a school to be teaching critical race theory. There's nothing that a white person can do that I can't as a black man. Should we be teaching American history? Should we be teaching the things that black people have gone through in this nation? For sure. But we don't need to be teaching that this is still happening to today. Because I feel like the modern critical race theory and the way students are starting to be taught and told about racism in America and what it means to be white and black and BLM, I'm not with any of that as a black man. So be sure to subscribe because I guess I should. I'll probably make a video talking about critical race theory and why, you know, I'm not fond of it at all.
So what exactly is the Department of Education? And importantly, what is it not? The Department of Education is not the agency or the part of government that controls what schools teach kids or how they teach it. Local school districts and states have control over those huge questions.
Which I will say, to give pushback against some Republicans or like how things are being phrased, to say we need to cut the Department of Education because our schools are already failing, it kind of doesn't match, because then you should be going towards and targeting the local schools and all the states on how horrible job that they're doing. So I will say that. But on the flip side, it also is like, okay, if the goal of the Department of Education is to step in and fill those gaps aren't being filled. So it's also like, just scrap the whole system. And not necessarily scrap the whole system, but like something needs to be rebuilt. Something needs to be done. Because if the Department of Education goal is to fill the gaps aren't being filled. They're doing a bad job.
Education is a relatively small federal agency, and more than 70% of its budget goes toward federal student aid. So grants or loans that help folks pay for college. In terms of K-12 education, there are funding streams to support low-income kids, disabled children. There's funding streams for research into best practices in education. The federal government only controls about 10% of the funding for local K-12 schools. Congress controls that 10%. So absent a ruling from the Supreme Court that would give the president powers that he doesn't currently have, these threats are not that meaningful to local schools. It is clear, however, that the Trump administration will drastically try to reduce the size of the federal Department of Education. Attempts to decrease the amount of money the Department of Education receives are going to disproportionately impact those students who the department's programs serve: low-income children, children with disabilities, and college students who cannot afford the full price of their tuition.
Okay, are you not going to mention how it's going to be pushed over to other departments? This is why you got to get the news for yourself. That is sad. I'm sitting here waiting on like her to mention, okay, but they're getting moved. Things are getting switched around. That wasn't brought up. Literally, there's so many other departments that have their hands in this pie. If you look in the executive order, if you look at things that Trump's saying, no student is going to go without food. No disabled student is going to go without care. Those are things that are going to be taken care of. Is just a massive restructuring of how things are being ran. In regards to the Department of Education shutting down and all the restructuring Donald Trump and his administration want to do, it is evident going through these videos, going through the executive order, going through what Trump is saying, nothing that drastic is about to happen. We all can acknowledge how bad our public school systems are on the state and local level, and we all can acknowledge the sheer amount of blow and wasted money spent at the federal level. Things need to be adjusted across the board. And I feel like this needs to be a great reminder that just because you're hearing, oh my gosh, you're shutting down the Department of Education, what happened, what about the schools? What about the money? What about the teachers? Let this be a moment for you to sit down and pause. Let this be a moment for you to sit down and reflect. Let this be a moment, not even just to plug them, but to use a tool like Ground News to understand, okay, let me process what the liberals are saying. Let me process what the Republicans are saying. Let me process what the center is saying. And let me come up with my own opinion. And let me come up with how I view everything in this media landscape of what is going on. Because there's a lot of fear out there. There's a lot of people being overtly emotional over something. If you look into it for yourself and you apply the context, it's not even that bad. The students are still going to get fed. The special needs kids are still going to be taught. Teachers are still getting paid. Things are just being restructured, and given again how bad things are off the bat, it's time for some restructuring. It's time for some people to get fired. It's time for some programs to just be shut down and built back up from scratch because something is not right. And it is okay for this administration to look into all of these things. I'm tired of the fear mongering. I'm tired of this push for the divisiveness. Like, just shut up and calm down. Child, we're gonna be fine. It's okay. So that's my thoughts. That's my opinion. That's how I'm processing what the administration is telling me, how other people are feeling, how other people are reacting to this news. So I don't feel too alone. There's a lot. I love that Black woman with a lot of common sense. Love that for her. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below. Are you fearful of the Department of Education trying to be shut down or being limited? Do you not like the idea of everything being restructured? Let me know, because it's evident that it is a bit split between the people who are just like, it's fine, versus the people that are like panicking. But it does seem like the people who are like, oh, it's fine, they have more trust in a new pathway. Whereas the people who are like, this is horrible, it's the worst thing to happen, it's like, are you even taking into account how bad things already are? Like, obviously something needs to change. So I don't know. That's just me. Let me know in the comments below your thoughts. As always, thank you for taking the time to watch this video. It means the world to me. I'm so honored to have you be a subscriber. I'm just floored with the amount of support that I'm getting on this channel. So thank you very, very much. It's a lot of gratitude, a full heart. And yeah, just know that if it's called, I say at the end of every video, it's called going through it for a reason. So just focus on you and only you, and you will achieve all the goals and dreams that you have set forth for yourself. I trust it and I believe in it, and I hope that you do too for yourself. So with that being said, thank you for taking the time to watch today's video, and I will see you in the next one. Deuces.